Of course, we had a heat wave last week, and this week it's decided to be 62 degrees. So, sweater, hot coffee, got those fall vibes going, but yesterday it was in the 90s. Who the heck even knows what's going on at this point, guys? Who even knows? Hi guys, I'm Lauren. Welcome to my channel. It's so good to see you guys. Thank you for subscribing and commenting. Thank you so much. Alright, so here's the vibe we have going on right now. Everything's a mess. I just came back from vacation. I will have a video out next week for you guys that is talking about what happened to my plants and how I took care of my plants while away on vacation and everything. All of the do's and don'ts and whatnot. Why are you telling me this right now, Lauren? Basically, the reason I'm telling you this is because I was away for a week and a half. A heat wave kind of came through while I was gone, and ferns do not really like heat waves too much. So we're just going to kind of go through, we're going to do damage control. I'm going to explain what happened to the fern, what's wrong with the fern, the type of fern, what it normally likes, what I did wrong, what I did right. This is going to be a fern maintenance video, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So when they look a little nicer, then I will be happy to do specific fern videos and specific fern care videos for you per your guys' request. I don't know, it feels kind of wrong to be like, here, this is how you take care of your fern, and I have like a half brown one right now. I have my greenhouse like right over here, so we're just gonna go for a short little walk here, take the greenhouse, and then we'll go downstairs, we'll hit up the bathroom. Let's get into it. But first, coffee. I need a moment. All right, let's go. Let's go.
Alright guys, so this is the greenhouse. It actually gets sun from 3 different sides. I have ferns up here, and in a heat wave, this was not a good idea. Let me move some of this stuff out of the way. I've adjusted it since I've come back because it was just so bad. This is an astral gem fern. It's got very, very thick, very succulent leaves for a fern. Very thick, succulent stems. So it does not need as much water as often, and it actually handled the heat wave really, really well. Extreme temperatures, it handled it just incredibly well. I can't even believe how well it handled so much heat. But yeah, you can even see some new growth in there. It just looks amazing. It's a very happy fern, surprisingly. Probably the happiest one you'll see this video, honestly. You can kind of see how thick it is. It reminds me a bit like parsley, but you can see that it did get a little crispy on the very edges. All right, the maidenhair ferns back here, not so well. They did not handle the amount of sun that they were getting. I thought because the greenhouse was in the center of the room that it would be okay, but the combined heat, as you can see, 99% humidity and almost 101 degrees while I was gone during this heat wave. They just did not fare well. And when heat waves come, the sun will actually be in the room even more. And that is how the maidenhair ferns ended up being burned.
There seems to be like this whole big thing out there that all ferns like hot weather and need the heat and humidity, and then there's this other thing out there that are like all ferns like cold and, you know, humidity, and the only thing that's consistent is humidity, but then they tell you that you have to mist everything, which is totally inaccurate.
Alright, so these ferns down here, this whole tray was on the top shelf, and as you can see, it did not fare well. They had constant humidity. This one got sunburnt to the extreme. This one back here, you can tell the black fronds got sunburnt. And the only one that survived not too much sunburn is the little asparagus fern down there, but it did not like the humidity and no airflow. So this is how we're going to go ahead and fix this. This maidenhair fern, we're going to go ahead and just chop off all of the crispy bits. I want to leave the green. I'm a firm believer that we should not deadhead ferns completely. I am a firm believer that every little bit of green will bring energy to the plants. So all of this green here you can see, I am going to save that. Also, you can tell that this fern got sunburnt because the burning edges start at the end, and you can tell that there's some discoloration as it goes. There would be yellow marks in between the brown and the green if it was overwatered. There would also be a deep smell of rot. And when you're pruning a maidenhair fern, you just want to go all the way at the base and just trim off the little dead ones. They will feel the same. It's not like some other ferns where they feel a little bit different. Sometimes they'll feel a little bit lighter and wiry, but most of the time they feel the same as the healthy fronds, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to go ahead and trim down here and be back in a minute for you. I did want to take a minute to show you guys this. These are actually dried up spores. These are how ferns reproduce. So if they are not a creeping fern, then they will drop these spores, and that is how they make more. It does tend to take a lot more energy from the fern. So sometimes you'll see a little bit of dieback from that when they're making new spores. Or they will feel a little bit more limp, or they'll need a little bit more care. And it's just something to be aware of. But I also wanted to show you that just so that way you know that they're not pests or anything to be concerned about. It's totally normal. You can tell that at some point I watered in the center there and the fronds inside died. Maidenhair ferns do not like to be top watered. So I think that was when I immediately came back, actually. So this is an asparagus fern. Asparagus ferns are not actually even ferns. They're just kind of lumped into ferns. They're in the asparagus family, like the vegetable, the asparagus. This guy needs a repot soon. He's got a little root coming out. How cute is that? But you can tell that the inner fronds have actually died. So I'm just going to go down to the base and trim them just like I did with the maidenhair fern. I can tell that this fern likes to have quite a bit of airflow, and it also needs to be watered very frequently. You can see there's a little bit of molds growing in there, and that is because it died and there was not airflow. So this likes a lot of airflow. It didn't seem to mind the temperatures, but it was more the airflow that was the problem, and I can imagine that it dries out very quickly, which is why I set it in the water, and I think that that was a great idea on the tray with the other two ferns. You can see that this is a light brown color and the other ones are green, so that's how you know that it's completely dead and you can go ahead and cut it. And there we go, it's all happy fern. Yay! I am going to leave this one out of the greenhouse. I do not think it's a greenhouse fern. This thing sheds like crazy. Worse than a freaking dog or cat, guys. Alright, this is my favorite lemon button fern. Such an easy care fern. I can see that it got burned mainly with the longer stems that were sticking out. And kind of in the middle there, so we're just going to go ahead, and I imagine it didn't do so well because there wasn't airflow in there. So we're just going to cut back what is clearly damaged and dried, but it's not too unhappy. It really handled all of the heat well. It's trying to creep out of its pot. It's got new growth coming in. It just got a little bit of sunburn from the heat, I think. It just dried up in there a little bit. But overall, it's a beautiful fern. Fantastic. So I'm just going to go ahead and trim it as best I can and then leave it be. Yeah. I did want to show you guys this. These are the little creeping rhizomes. So if you actually have them go into another pot, it will grow a whole new fern, which is pretty amazing. The Boston ferns will also do this as well, so that's kind of cool. I think it's part of what makes these plants such a resilient type of plant. It's what allowed them to survive through the dinosaurs, right? Alright, so this is pretty much done, and it's a happier looking fern now. So we're just going to put it back, and I'm going to clean the tray. It's still got its little hole. These ferns do not like to be repotted too much, but I probably will have to do it soon because it's literally escaping the pot. Alright, round 2 with this maidenhair fern. You guys saw a little while ago that this was my other rescue fern. I watered it. This one dried out while I was gone. The entire thing was empty. I watered it, and since being in there, since I've watered it, you can see that there's a little bit of mildew or mold growing on it. I don't remember the exact name of it. I'm sorry, guys, but it's actually not a bad thing. It just means there's not very much airflow. So it does need more airflow in there. It seems to be a common problem in the greenhouse. I am going to move it back to its normal area, and I am going to make it more shaded. But for right now, we're just going to go ahead and trim off all of the clearly dead and leave the green. You guys know the drill. Snip, snip, snip. Let's do this. And be back in just a second. Again, with these, we are going to be trimming at the base. Cut it down as low as possible. Dead foliage does attract pests. We definitely do not want that, especially since this fern is already suffering. So if you have debris and you have a plant that is clearly suffering, it will call to pests. It's just a natural thing. If you have a plant that constantly gets pests, it probably is suffering and needs some changes, because it's already weakened and therefore an easy snackable. Predator bugs are the same as anything else. Just because they like to eat plants doesn't mean that they're not going to go for the weak ones that are going to be extra delicious. All right, it's looking all happy now, nothing but green, and we're just going to put it in its new home out of that greenhouse, back into the same pot. I love the self-watering pots for ferns.
The rest of my ferns are downstairs in my bathroom. This is a completely different topic, but not all bathrooms are conducive to ferns. So just because you buy a fern doesn't mean you should shove it in your bathroom because everywhere says to shove them in bathrooms, okay? My bathroom just happens to have decent conditions for ferns, which is why I put it there. So I have a large chunk of my ferns down in my bathroom, and we're gonna go down in there in just a few minutes. Pardon the mess. I hope it's clean. I don't even know at this point, guys. Like, it's that coming back from vacation where you just dump everything everywhere and then you think that you'll eventually get to it. And yeah.
Right, guys, spoiler alert, I cleaned a little bit. It was terrible. I couldn't show you guys that. So I did move these around just a little bit. I forgot my son's sippy. This window right over here, let me get a better angle for you guys. Here we go. So this is an east-facing window, which means it gets bright, direct morning light. All of these ferns in here get bright, direct morning light. The window pane is frosted. These plants, these ferns, can handle a little bit more light. This one I actually had on the floor while I was gone. I wanted him to stay wet longer. I watered him right before I left. The blue star fern does like to dry out, so I knew he would be fine. I was more concerned about drying out too quickly and I wouldn't be back in time. This is a kokedama that's totally recovering, a staghorn fern kokedama. It's doing okay. This is my pride and joy, my rabbit's foot fern. My other rabbit's foot fern totally got thrips, so this one I'm babying. I'm hardcore babying. I let him dry out, and as soon as he's dry, I give him more water, bottom water him always, and then he's got his little baby rabbit's foot feet coming in. He's got his little cutie green ones, his little green nubbins. I love him. He's so cute. And this guy just dried out way too much while I was gone, and I should have taken care of him better. I thought he would be okay. All right, and he was up here, but I moved him down there when I cleaned just now. This is an autumn brilliance fern. I absolutely love its brand new foliage when it comes in. It comes in like this beautiful pinky color and then fades off to a lime green and then hardens off to this deep emerald green. I do like to bottom water this one. This one got dried out a little bit. It actually needs more water. I watered it a couple of days ago. The bathroom stays a lot cooler. They can handle some drought, which is pretty nice. This one is a tassel fern. This guy dried out completely, and he did not like it at all. You can see all of the tips, the brown ends, the dead foliage. I'm going to trim all of this back. I'm not going to waste your time because you guys have already seen me do a couple. But that's what this guy needs, and then I'm going to make sure to give him a deep watering. There's actually a fungus gnat in there, which is very odd because it's dry. But we'll see. This is a staghorn fern. This guy dries out completely, like totally the soil pulls away from the walls of the pot and he'll just sit there and relax completely. This fur on his leaves will help him absorb humidity and also protects him from the sun. He gets more furry the more light he has. And all of this new green growth is what he has been pushing out with this heat wave. And it did stay cooler in here, but it definitely was warmer. These guys are found in Florida quite a bit, so that's kind of what you should keep in mind when taking care of them. They are epiphytic, and when he's just completely dried out and I notice a little tiny bit of crisping, I will fill up that little tray with water and just let him drink it up as much as he wants. And you can see that he still gets some light, but it's not as much light as the others from that angle. This is my Boston fern. This is my pride and joy. I had him in my living room on my wood stove for quite a bit. I don't use the wood stove. It's technically a propane stove. But since moving it in here, I watered it. It's pushing out a ton of new growth. You can see all of this foliage just popping out. Inside, this is what happens when it dries out though. You get all of these fronds in here. So I will have to go in and do a deep maintenance of it. I will not deadhead this. I am just going to go in and pick up the extra foliage that has clearly passed on. Trim the little crispy edges from, the abuse it suffered. And it's just going to keep growing and be happy.
Oh, drop your comments down below if you have any specific fern questions that you want me to answer, or if anything in this video in particular helps you. That helps me to know what to keep making and how to help you guys. I'm kind of having a little bit of imposter syndrome right now since half my ferns look like crap from this heat wave, even though I wasn't here and I couldn't do anything about it, but you know what I'm saying. I'm happy to chat, so go ahead and hit me up on Instagram. We'll talk about all kinds of plants. I'm at like 200 plus now. Don't tell my husband. Plus you want to be updated for all of the things I did for these plants to still be alive after a week and a half in a heat wave. Thank you guys for subscribing. Thank you guys for watching.
All right, bonus round ferns. This is a foxtail fern. It's another fern in the asparagus family that's not an actual fern. But this is a new one. I am keeping this one outside. It is surviving all of the extreme temperatures, and I am just watering him every time he dries out. You can see he's got a little bit of browning, but he's also pushing out brand new growth. That light lime green I just showed you, brand new. He's a happy guy.
If somebody's got a fast track to the weather guy, please. Please give me their number and tell them to fix Washington because it's insane.